What is up, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Today we're talking more Madden 19 news, and we got some good stuff today as we're talking about franchise mode. So today we have an article from Game Informer, actually, not EA Sports. I'm guessing we'll get a deep dive later this week, but this is from Game Informer. The article is linked down below, and it details a lot of the new things coming to franchise. I'm not sure if it's all the new stuff, but at least there's a lot here to dive into and talk about for Madden 19. The emphasis this year in franchise mode is around schemes, and I do like this direction for the mode. We have schemes, player archetypes, and an overhauled progression system for our players. So every team this year is going to have an offensive and defensive scheme like we have kind of had in the past, but it's going to be a lot more important and it's going to have a greater effect on your players. We're also going to earn XP for our players based on their on-field play, and those are going to give us skill points that can be applied to their player archetypes. Strong arm quarterback and field general are quarterback archetypes. So we put those points into the archetype, and those get assigned random rating boosts based on the archetype and what direction you're trying to improve that player. Now, it offers less control for sure than the system that we're used to, where we get XP and we can put those points wherever we want to fix whatever ratings we want to work on. I like the sound of this system a whole lot more because it was very easy to make players better in past Maddens, where you could just take a bunch of points and load them into a receiver's route running, or take a running back who doesn't have great carrying, and that's easy to get better. And I don't like that free-for-all kind of upgrade system. I don't think it makes sense the way it was implemented. I think this makes more sense. So yeah, I think you should be able to upgrade a lower rated receiver's release or route running, but not the way that we did in the past. I don't like how it was handled. So based on these player archetypes, they're going to fit into the new schemes within the game. And when a player fits that scheme, they're going to get XP bonuses because they're a good fit. But if you're playing a player in the wrong scheme, it won't make them worse. They're going to progress a little slower. So when you're getting your vision for the team, you can think about who fits the different roles that are required to run your kind of an offense. And then it creates kind of that internal battle where you might have two players at different skill levels, but maybe the better player doesn't fit the scheme, whereas the worst player does. You could try to get some short-term impact from the better player, or maybe have that long-term outlook by playing the rookie who actually fits, and maybe you can turn him into a solid player. So I love that whole dynamic that's going to be possible in Madden 19. And we'll talk about the schemes now. We have 8 schemes for offense, 6 for defense. The offensive schemes are spread, West Coast zone run, West Coast power run, vertical zone run, vertical power run, multiple zone run, and the run and shoot. Defensively, you get the base 4-3, the multiple 4-3, the base 3-4, and the multiple 3-4, along with Tampa 2 and the 46. If you want to change your team's playbook, you can see what schemes go with that playbook, and then when you're scouting, you'll get some indicators about how those players fit the scheme. And we get this screenshot here. We have Jason Garrett, whose offense is a vertical zone run, and they run a base 4-3. You can see how the different positions line up with those archetypes they look for. At running back, for instance, they want an elusive running back. They want a deep threat at wide receiver. They want vertical stretching tight ends. And you can see just the different desires they have for various players. And they have an 88% scheme fit for the offense, which I assume is pretty good. Most of those are right on. For player archetypes, there are up to 4 archetypes for each position group. The quarterback ones are Scrambler, Strong Arm, West Coast, and Field General. With this system, I think about what I've done in my Bears franchise this last season when I got a new quarterback who really fit a different style of offense. He had a big, strong arm and wasn't really going to be a great West Coast offense quarterback. And so we changed a lot of things. So if we were to have the same situation in Madden 19, I would change the offense to a vertical zone run, which is what I am running with that team. We just don't have all these features that would be really cool to have right now. So more on these player archetypes. Each of the archetypes has their own formula to determine the attributes that go with that archetype. When their archetype matches the scheme, they get skill points a lot faster, and there are players that can fit multiple archetypes. Think about Antonio Brown. You're not worried about scheme fit with him. He fits literally every offense that's ever been run in the sport. You can apply skill points into any archetype, so if a player doesn't fit the scheme off the bat, you can level the appropriate archetype to eventually make them fit the scheme. I like that. There are kind of two philosophies. You can gear the scheme to the players or gear the players toward the scheme, and you can kind of mix and match both of those. We get the screenshot here of Odell Beckham. We see that we have a 94 overall deep threat archetype, a 93 possession, 93 red zone threat, and 93 slot. You can do whatever you want with Beckham. Underneath his 95 overall, you also see a progression bar to let you know how close he is to 96. That's good to know. We also see that there's the option to add him as a captain, and there's more on that later on. So when you earn skill points and you want to upgrade these archetypes, they get a random bump in that archetype's appropriate ratings. And so it's kind of a randomized thing. So I'm guessing that if you go into deep threat with 2 skill points, you might get different outcomes from each point. And before you spend a point, you're not able to see what the outcome is going to be. I am very cool with the whole randomized nature of that, as long as we still get a good mix of the important ratings for those archetypes. Gotta see it in action, but I definitely like the concept. And they say that it's random because in online leagues, players save up their points and dump them into one attribute all at once. And I completely understand the reasoning there. I personally didn't like the old XP and upgrade system, so I'm looking forward to progressing players a bit more reasonably, I hope, in Madden 19. Traditional player traits like clutch are not buyable, but are an innate part of the player from the start. So that makes it sound like the trait system is fixed and it's not going to be changeable. I wonder if players can earn different traits or how that's going to work. I personally kind of like the fact that in the trait system, if you don't get to change a lot of things, then you're going to have players who have another just layer of strengths and weaknesses. I like when there's a great separation between players and you really have to think about one player versus another and how they're going to fit and how they're going to differ and how you should be using them. They've also changed the development trait, and there are no more slow development players. It's going to be normal, quick, star, and superstar. And superstar encompasses only about 30 to 40 players, and this trait can evolve. And I'm assuming that means what it meant in the past, where I drafted a slow development linebacker in my Bears franchise who became Rookie of the Year. He ain't slow anymore, he's normal development. Now, I don't think taking slow development out was actually a good idea. I think that slow development makes sense for some players, especially some of those older rookies who could be 24 or 25 years old. They might be maxed out. They've already gotten a chance to learn and grow physically. There's a chance that they might not get a whole lot better, and there are players that come out who are simply as good as they were in college for the most part. So, I don't think I agree with that one. Weekly game planning and focus training is the same as last year, it says. Then for player regression, that's also been overhauled, and it sounds like the progression system in reverse. So that's also going to be kind of a randomized system that downgrades players. I'm really hoping it's not so aggressive, and eventually I want to see the game get more like NBA 2K, where players start to regress at a certain age and not all at like age 29, because some players like LeBron James, for instance, I don't see any regression out there. LaShawn McCoy is going to be 30 here in about a month, and he is still, I think, maybe the second or third best pure runner in the league. So that's definitely something I think that needs to be addressed in the future, but I'm hoping that the regression overall this year doesn't impact those 29 and 30-year-olds as bad. This is the new screen that we get for looking at players. A lot of this info is going to be the same. It's just looking a little bit different. We have Dak Prescott here, who seems like he can fit just about every scheme here to a decent extent at an average level. You can also see that he is a captain. The captain patch is on his uniform, and it's next to his overall rating. I hope they brought the coin toss back. I'm not getting my hopes up for that, but I do want to see those players recognized as captains. I'd love to see all the captains meeting at midfield every game. I would think that's awesome. Next up, of course, custom draft classes. We knew about that. That's a big one people have wanted for a long time. And in week 3, you can import, create, or load a custom draft class. When you create one, you'll start with a pre-generated class, and you can edit as much as you want, and you can basically do whatever you want. You get to make players as good as you want. You can make them late round prospects. I really want to know how it's going to work exactly, but I'm guessing it's going to be a free-for-all. You can just make players as good as you want for a certain round. It's something I definitely want to do a little work with, but for the most part in my franchises, I'm okay with some generated draft classes because it gives us all new players that are legends only in my series, really. And I really enjoy that. That dynamic the last few years in Madden and in all my dynasties in NCAA has been something that I love. So I like the feature. I'm glad it's there for those who want to use it. I want to use it a little bit to make players from past dynasties of mine, college players we never got to see in the NFL, and give them a chance to have a pro career. There are some new ratings in the game, and I like all of these. For quarterback, there's throw under pressure, that's a big one, break sack, and break tackle. What's cool here is that we already have a trait called sensing pressure. So I'm guessing now we get that taken to the next level. We have not only their reaction to dealing with pressure, whether they are erratic in the pocket or they get the throw out quickly, and now we have an accuracy rating to go with that. So that's kind of the evolution of, I think, the player rating system at play. Break sack, break tackle, that's all awesome, especially because break sack should be near 0 for most quarterbacks and only, doable by some of the better quarterbacks at evading sacks. For receiver, there's short, medium, and deep route running, and I love the sound of this because the routes are so different. You shouldn't have a player basically be as good on maybe a quick in or a slant as the deep comeback. It's completely different footwork, for instance. So I'm glad that's there, and you're going to have receivers now who have their specific area of focus, and you've got to play them in a way that makes sense. For offensive line, run block power and finesse, pass block power and finesse with a lead block rating as well thrown in there. Power and finesse is definitely something that we haven't had to take enough of a look at in Madden. I've been doing it recently because of plays that I do run. I call a lot of off-tackle plays that have guards pulling in front, so I can't really have the big, slow guards. I need someone who can move well. And when you get that to work and you draft the right player, like watch my Bears franchise video yesterday, you'll see how it all works. So that's just taken up a notch then in Madden 19 with the finesse and power ratings. And then you'll have to think about the type of runs that you want to use with those players and how to make it all work. If you're a coach or owner in franchise, you'll see them in their office with some idle animation. And then for players, you see them in the locker room. So it reminds me of like MLB The Show and the Road to the Show little menu. For draft day, they have reworked this to feature a new draft location with a stage and a crowd with a cityscape in the background. And when you see a player, or when you draft a player, you'll see them come out, their actual player model come out and strike a pose. That is really cool. I love the sound of that. Cannot wait to see it in action. You can take 5 or 6 snapshots from within games that will be threaded through the mode's other menus, the news and loading screen. That's cool. In NCAA, you could take highlight photos, and those would be shown on some of the front page news. For the depth chart, they have some new positions. I've talked about this in a full video. Slot receiver, slot corner, rush defensive end, rush defensive tackle, power back, subline backer, new roles for specific players and specific formations. And then you can choose your team captains. They'll have the patches, and some teams don't have captain patches or only have them in the playoffs. That takes us to the end of the article. So good to see we actually got some upgrades this year in franchise mode, some major ones for sure, like the draft class feature and the schemes. I do like the sound of all those. I think the mode still has a very long way to go. The news we got here sounds good. I'm hoping this wasn't everything, but I kind of feel like it is going to be everything. We'll see if the deep dive reveals anything else, and if it does, I will definitely make a video talking about it. So my whole thought on this is what's here sounds good. I just know that the mode still has a long way to go. And the main disappointment for me so far from what we've learned about Madden 19 is that I haven't heard much about AI, and whether it be roster management, play calling, quarterback AI, they're all very weak points of Madden, and I haven't heard enough about those this new cycle. We'll see if that changes, but this week is supposed to be franchise. I'm hoping I have something more to talk about. And the following week, it looks like that's going to be all about presentation. So definitely more news will be coming. We'll see when and how impactful it is. Subscribe if you want to hear about it when the news is released. I'll be talking about it here on my channel. Check out more of the Madden content that I create, both here and on my second channel, MrHurriicane LP. I do a lot of franchise and rebuild style content. And that is about it for today, everybody. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Please leave your feedback down below in the comment section. Let me know which of these features you think will be the best addition to Madden this year. Please leave a like, again subscribe, hit the bell for notifications when new videos are posted, and I'll see you all next time. Have a great day.